Welcome to a journey through the shadows of history, where ancient scrolls whisper truths long silenced by empires. Imagine a Bible not confined to the familiar 66 books, but expanded to 88, preserving texts that challenge everything we thought we knew about good and evil. What if the Antichrist wasn't a future apocalyptic figure, but a deceptive force already unmasked centuries ago in the highlands of East Africa? This is the story of the Ethiopian Bible, a guardian of forbidden knowledge that exposed the adversary's true nature before the Western world even glimpsed it. Prepare to unlearn the myths, reclaim hidden legacies, and confront a theology that could reshape your understanding of faith, power, and identity. Our story begins in the cradle of humanity itself, the ancient lands of Ethiopia, a region steeped in mystery and resilience. Long before the rise of Rome or the councils of Christendom, Ethiopia, known in antiquity as the Kingdom of Aksum, emerged as a powerhouse in the Horn of Africa. By the 1st century BCE, Aksum had become a thriving trade empire, its ports bustling with merchants from Arabia, India, and the Mediterranean. Ivory, gold, incense, and exotic animals flowed through its markets, making it one of the wealthiest civilizations of its time. But it wasn't just economic prowess that defined Aksum. It was a cultural and spiritual beacon, blending indigenous traditions with influences from across the seas. Archaeological evidence from sites like Yeha and Aksum reveals monumental obelisks, intricate stone carvings, and early inscriptions in Ge'ez, the ancient Semitic language that would become the liturgical tongue of Ethiopian Christianity. Ge'ez, with its roots tracing back to the Sabaean script of ancient Yemen, wasn't merely a tool for communication. It was a vessel for sacred knowledge, preserving oral histories, royal decrees, and eventually divine revelations. This linguistic heritage set Ethiopia apart, allowing it to maintain a scriptural tradition independent of Greek or Latin dominance. The pivotal moment came in the 1st century AD, as recorded in the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 8. An Ethiopian eunuch, a high official in the court of Queen Candace, likely a Manitore or a successor in the Kandake dynasty of Kush, traveled to Jerusalem for worship. This man, described as a treasurer of great authority, encountered the apostle Philip on the road from Jerusalem to Gaza. Philip explained the prophecies of Isaiah to him, leading to his baptism in a nearby body of water. This encounter, dated around 30 to 35 AD, marks the earliest documented spread of Christianity to sub-Saharan Africa. The eunuch returned home, carrying the seeds of the gospel to a land already familiar with monotheistic ideas through its Jewish influences. Ethiopia had long hosted Jewish communities known as Beta Israel or Falashas, who traced their lineage to the Queen of Sheba's legendary visit to King Solomon in the 10th century BCE. By the 4th century, under King Ezana, Aksum officially adopted Christianity as its state religion around 330 AD, predating the Roman Empire's conversion under Constantine by mere decades. Ezana's inscriptions on stone stelae boast of his victories and his devotion to the Lord of Heaven, shifting from pagan deities like Marim to the Christian God. This made Aksum the second sovereign state to embrace Christianity after Armenia. But unlike Armenia or Rome, Ethiopia's faith developed in isolation from imperial interference. No papal envoys dictated doctrine. No councils like Nicaea in 325 AD imposed creeds. Instead, Ethiopian Christianity evolved organically, blending apostolic teachings with local customs, such as the veneration of the Ark of the Covenant, which tradition claims was brought to Aksum by Menelik I, son of Solomon and Sheba. This independence was crucial. While the Roman Church grappled with heresies and schisms, Arianism, Nestorianism, monophysitism, Ethiopia aligned with the Oriental Orthodox tradition, emphasizing Christ's single, divine human nature. The Council of Chalcedon in 451 AD split Christendom, but Ethiopia remained steadfast, forging ties with the Coptic Church of Egypt. Politically, this faith bolstered Aksum's resistance to invasions. In the 6th century, King Caleb intervened in Yemen to protect Christians from persecution, expanding Ethiopian influence across the Red Sea. Economically, Christianity enhanced trade networks. Pilgrims and monks traveled to Jerusalem and Alexandria, bringing back manuscripts and relics. Technologically, the era saw advancements in architecture, with rock-hewn churches like those in Lalibela, carved in the 12th century under King Lalibela, representing engineering marvels. These monolithic structures, dug directly from volcanic tuff, featured intricate drainage systems, symbolic designs, and acoustic properties for chants. Culturally, Christianity infused art, music, and literature. Illuminated manuscripts depicted biblical scenes with African features using vibrant inks from local minerals. But beneath this flourishing lay a deeper treasure, the Ethiopian biblical canon. Unlike the Western Bible, standardized at 66 books by the Protestant Reformation or 73 by Catholic tradition, Ethiopia's canon includes 81 to 88 books, depending on the counting. This expanded collection preserved texts deemed apocryphal or pseudepigraphal in the West, such as 1 Enoch, Jubilees, the Ascension of Isaiah, and the books of Maccabean. These weren't additions. They were ancient Jewish writings, some quoted in the New Testament itself. Jude references Enoch directly. The Book of Enoch, composed between the 3rd and 1st centuries BCE, is a cornerstone. Discovered in full only in Gayer's manuscripts in the 18th century by explorer James Bruce, it details angelic hierarchies, the Watcher's fall, and apocalyptic visions. Enoch describes a pre-flood world where angels mated with humans, producing Nephilim Giants, leading to divine judgment. This text influenced early Christian thought. Tertullian and Origen cited it, but was excluded from Western canons during the 4th century councils, possibly due to its esoteric content challenging ecclesiastical control. Jubilees, written around 160–150 BCE, retells Genesis and Exodus through angelic revelations to Moses, emphasizing a solar calendar and strict law observance. It portrays evil spirits as agents of Mastema, a prince of demons, testing humanity. The Ascension of Isaiah from the 1st–2nd centuries AD narrates the prophet's heavenly journey and martyrdom, including visions of Christ's descent and the adversary's role. Why did Ethiopia preserve these? Isolation from Roman censorship played a part. During the Islamic conquests of the 7th century, Ethiopia sheltered Muslim refugees, earning the respect of Prophet Muhammad, who instructed followers not to invade it. This Pact of Najran protected Ethiopia, allowing monastic communities to thrive in remote highlands, copying manuscripts by hand. Monks like those at Debre Damo Monastery, founded in the 6th century, dedicated lives to preservation, using parchment from goat skins and inks from plants. These texts reveal a theology unfiltered by empire. In Western tradition, Satan is the fallen angel Lucifer, rebelling in pride, but Ethiopian sources paint a different picture, the adversary as Cybele or Sibyl, a defiler, divider, accuser, not primarily a rebel. Drawing from Enoch, Cybele introduces separation and doubt, corrupting through deception rather than outright war. This aligns with biblical depictions in Job, where Satan accuses in God's court, or Zechariah, where he opposes the high priest. The name Lucifer itself is a Latin artifact. In Isaiah 14:12, the Hebrew Helel ben Shahar means shining one, son of dawn, taunting the Babylonian king, not describing an angelic fall. Jerome's Vulgate translation around 400 AD rendered it Lucifer, meaning light-bearer, which later theologians like Augustine and Aquinas conflated with Satan. By the Middle Ages, Dante's Inferno, 1320, and Milton's Paradise Lost, 1667, cemented Lucifer as the archetypal rebel. Ethiopia's resistance to this narrative stems from its canon. Enoch describes the fall of angels like Azazel and Shemihaza, bound for corrupting humanity, not leading a heavenly coup. Jubilees portrays Mastema petitioning God to allow spirits to tempt, positioning evil as permitted testing, not autonomous rebellion. This shifts theology. Evil isn't an equal force opposing God, but a tool for refining faith, echoing James 1:2-4, on trials producing perseverance. Politically, this empowered Ethiopia against colonialism. During the Italian invasions of 1896 and 1935, Emperor Menelik II and Haile Selassie invoked this resilient faith. Menelik's victory at Adwa in 1896, the first African defeat of a European power, was framed as divine intervention against imperial accusers. Culturally, this theology influenced art. Manuscripts show Christ triumphing over a chained adversary, not battling a rival. Economically, monasteries were centers of learning, advancing agriculture through terracing and irrigation, sustaining communities during famines. Now let's delve deeper into the figure of Cybele, the true adversary unmasked in Ethiopian texts. Unlike the Western Satan, a horned tempter embodying chaos, Cybele is the defiler of light, a subtle prosecutor who sows division. In Enoch's parable section, chapters 37-71, the Son of Man confronts watchers who defiled creation, with the head of evil bound until judgment. This concept predates Christianity, rooted in Second Temple Judaism. Texts like the Dead Sea Scrolls' War Scroll, 1QM, depict a cosmic battle between sons of light and darkness, with Belial as accuser. Ethiopia, through its Jewish heritage, Beta Israel preserved similar traditions, integrated this into Christian eschatology. Cybele's tactics, accusation over rebellion. In Revelation 12:10, Satan is the accuser of our brothers, hurled down. Ethiopian commentary expands this. Cybele manipulates systems, making injustice seem divine. During the Zagwe dynasty, 900-1270 AD, kings like Lalibela built churches as refugees from such accusations, symbolizing spiritual warfare against oppressive forces. Compared to Western views, medieval Europe used Lucifer's fall to justify hierarchies. Crusades, 1095-1291, portrayed Muslims as satanic rebels, sanctioning violence. The Inquisition, 1231 onward, accused heretics as Luciferian, suppressing dissent. Ethiopia's perspective exposed this as antichristic, deception masquerading as righteousness. 1 John 2:18 warns of many antichrists, spirits denying Christ's incarnation. By preserving texts like Ascension of Isaiah, where the adversary disguises as a holy figure, Ethiopia preempted identifying imperial theologies as antichrist forces. The Antichrist, in Christian eschatology, is the ultimate deceiver from Daniel, 2 Thessalonians, and Revelation, the beast opposing Christ. Western interpretations, influenced by Augustine's City of God, 426 AD, see it as a future tyrant. But Ethiopian tradition, via apocalyptic texts like the Apocalypse of Peter, included in some canons, views it as an ongoing spirit, already active in oppressive systems. Enoch's week's apocalypse predicts eras of wickedness, with the 8th week bringing judgment on deceivers. This exposed the Antichrist before Western reformers like Luther, 1483-1546, who identified the Pope as Antichrist amid corruption. Ethiopia's early insight came from its unedited scriptures. During the Solomonic Dynasty, 1270-1974, emperors claimed descent from Solomon, reinforcing a theology where the king emulates Christ against accusatory evils. Haile Selassie, R. 1930-1974, revered by Rastafarians as divine, invoked this in speeches against fascism, calling Mussolini's regime an anti-Christic force. Technologically, manuscript illumination advanced symbolism. Gold leaf represented uncorrupted light, contrasting Sibyl's defilement. Politically, this theology resisted Arab expansions in the 16th century under Ahmad Gragan, where monks rallied as spiritual warriors. The image of Christ in Ethiopian art further exposes deceptions. Unlike Renaissance depictions by Michelangelo or Da Vinci, pale, European, Ethiopian icons show a dark-skinned Jesus with African features. Manuscripts from the Gondar period, 1632-1769, portray him with coiled hair, broad nose, reflecting the people. This isn't anachronistic. Early Christianity in Africa depicted Christ contextually. Catacombs in Rome show varied images, but Byzantine influence whitened him post-Constantine, 312 AD. Ethiopia, free from this, preserved a black Messiah, aligning with biblical descriptions. Revelation 1:14-15 describes hair like wool, feet like burnished bronze. Culturally, this empowered identity. For enslaved Africans in the Americas, 1500s-1800s, Ethiopianism inspired movements like the Back to Africa push by Marcus Garvey, 1887-1940. Nat Turner's Rebellion, 1831, drew from apocalyptic visions akin to Enoch. Politically, it challenged colonialism. During Scramble for Africa, 1880s, Ethiopia's independence symbolized resistance, its Bible a weapon against white Christ, justifying exploitation. Economically, church lands supported communities with tithes funding education. Technologically, printing presses introduced in the 19th century by missionaries spread these texts, though locals adapted them to Ge'ez. Imperial Christianity, forged in Rome, contrasted sharply with Ethiopia's liberation theology. Constantine's Edict of Milan, 313 AD, legalized Christianity, but Theodosius III made it state religion in 380 AD, merging faith with power. Councils like Nicaea standardized doctrine, excluding texts threatening hierarchy. Augustine's doctrines emphasized original sin and submission, justifying serfdom. Medieval feudalism used Lucifer's rebellion to demand obedience. Rebelling against lords was satanic. The Reformation, 1517 onward, challenged this but retained canon limits. Calvin's predestination echoed accusatory theology, judging the poor as damned. Ethiopia's version liberated Christ as chainbreaker, adversary as system-embedded accuser. This influenced modern liberation theology, like James Cone's Black Theology, 1969, drawing parallels to Ethiopian Christ. Globally, Ethiopia's canon impacted scholarship. Bruce's 1770s discovery sparked interest. 19th century translations influenced eschatology debates. In Africa, it fueled independence movements. Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, 1957 independence, cited Ethiopian resilience. Controversies abound. Some scholars dismiss Enoch as non-inspired, but Dead Sea Scrolls, 1947, validated its antiquity. Modern interpretations link Nephilim to ancient astronaut theories, though Ethiopian tradition sees them as spiritual warnings. Lesser known, the role of women. Queen Judith in the 10th century briefly overthrew Zagwe, but nuns preserved manuscripts. Biographies like Abba Gedewon, 14th century monk, highlight ascetic preservation amid invasions. Historiography debates. Orientalists like Edward Gibbon, 1737 to 1794, downplayed African Christianity. Modern Africanists like John Mbiti reaffirm its primacy. As we reflect on this legacy, consider the implications. The Ethiopian Bible didn't just preserve texts, it exposed the Antichrist as deception within systems, racism, inequality, imperialism. In today's world of misinformation and division, its message urges discernment, question narratives, reclaim identities, resist accusation. What if the true fall was not Lucifer's, but our acceptance of edited truths? Ethiopia calls us back to a faith of liberation, where Christ looks like the oppressed and the adversary is unmasked. This isn't history's end, it's an invitation to awaken. The truth has been preserved, now will you heed it?